I was 7 years into what I thought was the perfect marriage. Our life together seemed like something out of a movie. Comfortable suburban house, stable careers, yearly vacations, to places we had always dreamed of visiting. Laura and I had it all. At least, that is what I believed until that Tuesday evening, when she sat down across from me, with an expression I had never seen before. "Jerry," she said quietly, "I need to confess something. Let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. If this is your first time here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We have got an intense journey ahead, and trust me, you will want to stick around for how this ends." Laura and I met at a tech conference 8 years ago. I still remember the moment I first saw her walking confidently toward the coffee station. She had this magnetic presence, intelligent eyes that seemed to see right through you, shoulder-length auburn hair, and a smile that made you feel like you were the most interesting person in the room. She worked in marketing for a major corporation while I was developing software for a mid-sized tech company. We struck up a conversation about the terrible conference coffee, and somehow ended up talking for 3 hours. Our dating life was passionate and exciting. Laura was adventurous in ways I had never been, spontaneous weekend trips, trying exotic restaurants, and introducing me to her wide circle of friends. I fell hard and fast. Within a year, I proposed during a hike to her favorite mountain lookout point, and she said yes, without hesitation. Our wedding was intimate but perfect. Close friends and family gathered at a rustic venue with twinkling lights and heartfelt vows. Life settled into a comfortable rhythm after that. I continued climbing the corporate ladder at my software company, eventually becoming a senior developer with a team under me. The hours were long but rewarding, and the pay allowed us to buy our dream home in a nice neighborhood. Laura excelled in her marketing career as well, frequently traveling for client meetings and industry events. She would often return with exciting stories about the people she met and the cities she visited. Looking back, the warning signs were there, but I was too blinded by what I thought was happiness to notice them. Laura started coming home later and later, always with the same excuse: the client meeting ran long, or we had to finish the presentation. Our physical intimacy dwindled from several times a week during our first years to maybe once a month by our 5th anniversary. I chalked it up to our busy careers and the natural evolution of marriage. Then there were the secretive text messages. Laura would immediately flip her phone over when I walked into the room, or suddenly end calls when I came home. If I ever mentioned it, she would laugh it off, saying I was being paranoid. "It is just work stuff, Jerry. Nothing interesting." Weekends became a source of subtle tension. Laura always seemed exhausted, preferring to stay in rather than explore new restaurants or visit friends like we used to. When I suggested weekend getaways, she would find reasons why we could not go: deadlines, upcoming presentations, or simply not feeling well. Small arguments erupted over insignificant things: the way I loaded the dishwasher, how I folded the laundry, or the tone I used when asking about her day. In retrospect, these were deflections, ways to create distance between us without addressing the real issues. Despite the growing distance, I tried everything I could think of to maintain our connection. I planned surprise date nights at restaurants that required reservations months in advance. I remembered every anniversary, marking our 7th with an elaborate dinner at a 5-star restaurant downtown. I bought thoughtful gifts for her birthday: a first edition of her favorite novel, a custom necklace with coordinates of where we first met. I attempted to talk about our feelings many times, sitting down with Laura to express my concerns about our drifting apart. But she always had a meeting to prepare for, or was too tired to have a heavy conversation. Her standard response became, "Everything is fine, Jerry. You worry too much." As the emotional distance grew, I started questioning myself. Was I being too needy? Not attentive enough? Working too many hours, I began making even more efforts, handling more household chores, giving her space when she seemed to need it, surprising her with small gifts for no reason. Nothing seemed to bridge the growing gap between us. Friends would comment on what a perfect couple we were, how we seemed to have it all figured out. If only they knew how hollow those compliments felt as I lay awake at night, wondering what had happened to the woman who used to look at me with such adoration. The evening, everything fell apart. Started like any other Tuesday. I had picked up groceries on the way home from work and prepared a simple pasta dinner. Laura texted that she would be home around 7, which was earlier than usual. Something about her message seemed off, but I could not put my finger on what it was. When she arrived, the tension was immediate. She barely greeted me, placing her keys deliberately on the counter, and pouring herself a glass of wine before even taking off her coat. We ate dinner in relative silence, with my attempts at conversation meeting single-word responses. After dinner, Laura sat across from me at the dining table, her hands folded in front of her. The overhead light cast shadows on her face, making her expression even more severe. "Jerry," she began, her voice unnervingly steady, "I have not been happy in this marriage." My fork clattered against the plate as I set it down. "What do you mean? Is there something specific I have been doing wrong?" She shook her head slowly. "It is not any one thing. It is everything. This life we have built. It does not fulfill me anymore." I felt confusion wash over me, my mind racing to understand. "Laura, we can fix this. Couples. Therapy. Maybe. A vacation. To reconnect." "There is more," she said, looking down at her hands. "I have been seeing someone else." The world seemed to stop. "What do you mean, seeing someone?" "I have been having an affair. With Brian. My boss." My throat constricted. "Brian? Who?" "Lock-in. I had met him at company events. A tall, confident man, around 45, with a booming laugh and expensive suits. Married with 2 teenage children." How long, I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. Laura looked directly at me now. 4 years. 4 years. More than half our marriage. My mind reeled trying to process this information. 4 years, how is that even possible? "It started at a conference in Chicago. You were busy with that major software launch, remember? You could not come with me." Her voice had a detached quality, as though she were describing something that had happened to someone else. "It was just supposed to be a one-time thing, but it continued." I gripped the edge of the table, feeling like I might fall if I did not hold on to something solid. "Why just? Why, Laura?" I was bored, Jerry. The words hit me like physical blows. "Our life together is so predictable. So safe. Brian is exciting. Unpredictable. He challenges me in ways you never have." Each word drove the knife deeper. She continued, her voice growing more animated than it had been in conversations with me for years. "You are a good man, Jerry. Stable. Dependable. But there is no spark anymore. With Brian, I feel alive." The cruelty of her honesty stunned me. I had been too boring. Too safe. Too predictable. The very qualities that should make someone a good husband were the reasons she had sought excitement elsewhere. All those business trips I asked, already knowing the answer. Some were legitimate. Many were opportunities to be with Brian. Sometimes in other cities, sometimes just at his apartment when his wife was visiting her parents with the kids. Images flooded my mind. Laura and Brian, together in hotel rooms I had paid for with our joint credit card, laughing about how oblivious I was making plans, while I sat at home missing her. "Did you ever love me at all?" The question escaped before I could stop it. Laura sighed. "Of course I did. In the beginning. But people change, Jerry. I need more than this." She gestured vaguely around our dining room, at the life we had built together. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach, unable to breathe properly. Memories of our wedding day vacations, quiet Sunday mornings reading together, all suddenly called into question. Had any of it been real? Had she been thinking of him even then? The anger came in waves, crashing against my chest. I wanted to scream, to break things, to make her feel a fraction of the pain that was tearing me apart. But I sat there silent, and still, as she continued to dismantle 7 years of what I thought was my life. "I need some time away," Laura said finally. "To think about what I want." "What you want?" I repeated, my voice sounding foreign to my own ears. "What about what I want? Did that ever matter?" "That is not fair," she said, having the audacity to look hurt. "I am trying to be honest with you now. After 4 years of lying, you do not get points for honesty now, Laura." She stood up abruptly. "I am going to pack some things. I think we need space from each other." I watched in a daze as she climbed the stairs to our bedroom. Within an hour, she had packed a large suitcase and a few bags. She did not tell me where she was going, only that she would be in touch. As the front door closed behind her, the silence in the house became deafening. I sat motionless at the dining table. For hours, our dinner plates still in front of me, food long gone cold. When I finally moved, it was only to sink to the floor back against the wall as the first racking sobs tore through my chest. That night was the longest of my life. I called Laura repeatedly, but my calls went straight to voicemail. I sent text messages that showed as delivered but never read. I alternated between paralyzing grief and white-hot anger. Sleep was impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Laura with Brian laughing at my ignorance. The first week, without Laura, was a blur of pain and confusion. I called in sick to work for 2 days, unable to focus on anything beyond the most basic functions of survival. When I did return, my team immediately noticed something was wrong. I gave vague explanations about personal issues and buried myself in code, finding momentary escape in the logical problems I could actually solve. Sleep came in short, restless bursts, plagued by nightmares where I would see Laura and Brian together in our home in our bed mocking me. I would wake up drenched in sweat, reaching for her side of the bed only to find it cold and empty. My friend Alex came over after I missed our weekly basketball game. He found me unshaven, surrounded by takeout containers, staring blankly at a television show I was not actually watching. "Jerry man, what the hell happened to you?" he asked, surveying the chaos of the living room. The whole story spilled out in a jumbled mess. Laura, Brian, 4 years, bored, left me. Alex listened without interrupting, his expression darkening as the details emerged. "She is staying with her sister," he said, finally revealing a piece of information I had not known. "Sarah told me when I called looking for you." So her family knew. I wondered if they had known about Brian too. Had everyone been laughing at me behind my back all this time? Alex stayed the night on my couch, making sure I ate something substantial and took a shower. His presence was a small anchor in the storm that had become my life. The next blow came when Laura's parents called. They expressed shock and concern, saying Laura had only told them we were having problems, but not about her affair. Their awkward sympathy made everything worse somehow. I had always gotten along well with them, and now our relationship was another casualty of Laura's betrayal. 3 days after Laura left, I found myself staring at our shared laptop. She had always used it for personal projects, keeping her work computer separate. A nagging suspicion led me to open her email account, which she had apparently forgotten to log out of. What I found shattered any remaining illusions. Hundreds of emails between Laura and Brian going back nearly 4 years, as she had claimed. The earliest ones were tentative, full of "we should not be doing this and just this once." But they quickly evolved into explicit exchanges detailing their encounters and planning future ones. There were hotel confirmations for weekends when Laura had told me she was at marketing retreats or visiting college friends. Photos they had shared with each other from places I recognized. The beach resort in Mexico, where Laura had gone for a girls' trip, the cabin in the mountains she had rented for a work writing session. The most devastating discovery was an email thread from just 6 months ago where they discussed their future together. Brian had apparently promised to leave his wife after his youngest child graduated high school next year. They had researched apartments in the downtown area, even scheduling viewings during times when I was at work. But that was not all. Our shared cloud storage contained photos I had never seen. Laura and Brian together at restaurants and hotel rooms, even one taken in our backyard during a weekend. I had been away visiting my parents. The casual intimacy in these images made me physically ill. Financial records showed something even more disturbing. Laura had been using our joint account to buy gifts for Brian. Expensive watches, designer ties, weekend getaways. I had always trusted her completely with our finances, never questioning when she said certain expenses were for work necessities or gifts for clients. The final blow was discovering that Brian had been in our home multiple times when I was away. Security camera footage that I rarely checked showed him arriving one evening when I was on a 3-day coding retreat, leaving the following afternoon. They had brought their affair into our home, our sanctuary. As these discoveries piled up, I hit my lowest point. I could barely function at work, leading to a concerned call from my manager about declining performance. I started drinking alone each night, just enough to numb the constant pain and fall into fitful sleep. I lost 15 pounds in 2 weeks, my clothes hanging loose on my frame. Friends would call or text, but I mostly ignored them. Unable to bear the thought of explaining what had happened, of saying out loud that my wife had found me so boring. She had sought excitement elsewhere for 4 years. One particularly dark night, 3 weeks after Laura left, I found myself holding my phone, her number on the screen, my thumb hovering over the call button. I was ready to beg her to come back, to promise I would be more exciting, less predictable, whatever she wanted. The depth of my desperation frightened me. That same night, while searching for an old photo, I came across our wedding album. The sight of Laura in her white dress, looking at me with what I had believed was love, broke something inside me. I hurled the album across the room, shattering a framed photo of us on the wall. The crash somehow broke through the fog I had been living in. As I knelt to clean up the broken glass, I cut my finger and watched the blood well up, feeling something other than emotional pain for the first time in weeks. The next day, Alex came by again, this time with dinner and a determined expression. He sat me down at the kitchen table and spoke with the blunt honesty of a true friend. "Jerry, you are worth more than this. Laura did not just cheat. She systematically lied and manipulated you for years. This is not about you being boring or her being bored. This is about her character." His words penetrated the walls of self-blame I had built. I keep thinking, if I had just been more exciting or worked less or... Alex cut me off. "Stop. Would you ever cheat on someone because you were bored? Would you lie to someone you loved for 4 years? Put that way, the answer was clearly no. I would never do what Laura had done, no matter the circumstances." That conversation marked a turning point. The next day, I made an appointment with a therapist who specialized in betrayal trauma. Dr. Melanie Carter was direct but compassionate, helping me see that Laura's choices reflected her character flaws, not my worth as a person or a husband. I also joined a support group for people going through divorce after infidelity. Hearing others' stories, some even more devastating than mine, helped put my experience in perspective. I was not alone in this pain, and others had survived it. Slowly, I started rebuilding my routine. I returned to the gym, channeling my anger and hurt into physical exertion. I reconnected with friends I had been avoiding, finding strength in their support. I focused on my work again, even taking on a challenging new project that required my full attention. 3 weeks and 2 days after Laura walked out, there was a knock at my door around 9 in the evening. I opened it to find her standing there, looking nothing like the confident woman who had left. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, her eyes red-rimmed and puffy from crying. She wore no makeup, dressed in jeans and a sweatshirt I had given her 2 Christmases ago. "Can I come in?" she asked, her voice small and uncertain. I stepped aside wordlessly, allowing Laura to enter the home she had abandoned 3 weeks earlier. A strange calm had settled over me, one that surprised even myself. She glanced around, noticing the changes. I had rearranged some furniture, removed most of our photos, and replaced the living room rug with a new one in a completely different style. Laura perched tentatively on the edge of the sofa, looking up at me with what appeared to be genuine remorse. "You look different," she said. "I am different," I replied, simply remaining standing. "What do you want, Laura?" She took a deep breath, twisting her hands in her lap. "Brian went back to his wife," she said, tears welling in her eyes. "He said he could not leave his family after all. That we should end things." I felt nothing at this revelation. Not satisfaction. Not anger. Not even surprise. "I see." I have been doing a lot of thinking these past weeks, she continued, wiping at her eyes. I made a terrible mistake, Jerry. The biggest mistake of my life. Which mistake exactly? I asked, my voice level. Cheating for 4 years or only telling me because your lover dumped you? She flinched. I deserve that. I know I do. But I am being sincere right now. She looked up at me pleadingly. I miss you. I miss our life together. I took what we had for granted. And now, I see how special it was. Special enough that you invited your boyfriend into our home when I was away. I watched her face crumple as she realized what I knew. How did you? I found everything, Laura. The emails, the photos, the hotel receipts, the gifts you bought him with our money, the security footage of him coming here to our home. She covered her face with her hands, shoulders shaking with sobs. I am so sorry. I do not know what I was thinking. I got caught up in the excitement, the forbidden nature of it. But it was never real like what we had. Had I corrected? Past tense. We can fix this, she insisted, lowering her hands to look at me. People overcome affairs all the time. We could go to counseling work on rebuilding trust. I will do anything to make this right. 3 weeks ago, I might have agreed instantly, so desperate to have her back that I would have accepted any terms. But the man standing before her now was not the same one she had left. Why did you really come back, Laura? I asked. Is it because you genuinely love me and regret hurting me, or is it because Brian chose his family and you do not want to be alone? Her hesitation told me everything I needed to know. I do love you, she said eventually, but the words rang hollow. I am not your backup plan. I said, the statement emerging with a certainty that surprised even me. I am not your safety net for when excitement fails. That is not what this is, she protested, but her eyes darted away from mine. I walked to the dining room table and returned with a folder. These are all the documents I have gathered about your affair. Copies of emails, financial records, everything. I have already spoken to a lawyer. A lawyer. Her face paled. Jerry, please. We do not need to involve lawyers. We can work this out. There is nothing to work out. You made your choice 4 years ago, Laura. You just did not bother to tell me about it until now. What if I told you Brian meant nothing to me? She tried desperately. It was just physical, a distraction. A 4-year distraction that you were planning a future with. I opened the folder and showed her the emails about apartment hunting. Were these meaningless too? She had no answer, just more tears. I closed the folder and set it aside. I need you to leave, I said calmly. Any further communication should go through our lawyers. You cannot mean that, she whispered. 7 years of marriage, and you will not even try. I did try, Laura. For 7 years I tried to be a good husband. I tried to make you happy. I tried to build a life with you. You were the one who decided it was not enough. She stood up slowly, reality finally sinking in. What about our house? Our things? The house is mostly in my name, as you know. You can have whatever personal belongings you left behind. Everything else can be decided during the divorce proceedings. Divorce, she repeated as if hearing the word for the first time. So that is it, no second chances. I looked at her directly, feeling stronger than I had in weeks. You had 7 years of chances, Laura. Every day you chose to lie to me was a chance to tell the truth. Every time you went to him instead of working on our marriage was a choice. I deserve better than being someone's second choice. As she gathered the few remaining items she had come for, the truth dawned visibly on her face. She had lost everything. Not just Brian and the excitement he represented, but the stable, loving foundation I had provided all those years. By the time she reached the door, her confident posture had collapsed entirely. I will regret this for the rest of my life, she said, hand on the doorknob. Probably, I agreed. But that is your burden to carry, not mine. The door closed behind her with a quiet click, nothing like the dramatic slam I might have expected. In that anticlimactic moment, I felt the first real stirring of freedom. The divorce process was surprisingly straightforward. With the evidence I had gathered, Laura knew contesting anything would only drag both of us through more pain. She agreed to a fair division of assets, taking only what was rightfully hers and leaving the house to me. In the months that followed, I focused entirely on rebuilding myself. The therapy sessions with Dr. Carter continued weekly, helping me work through the betrayal and trust issues that threatened to follow me into future relationships. The support group became a source of strength and perspective, showing me that healing was possible. Work became a positive outlet rather than just a distraction. I threw myself into a challenging new project, earning recognition from upper management and eventually a promotion. The increased responsibilities and creative challenges kept my mind engaged during the day, preventing it from spiraling into what-ifs and regrets. I discovered new interests that Laura had never shared: rock climbing, photography, cooking classes. Each new skill I acquired felt like reclaiming a piece of myself that had been submerged in our relationship. I reconnected with old friends and made new ones, building a support network that had nothing to do with my identity as half of a couple. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I took my first solo international trip, 2 weeks in Japan, something Laura had always vetoed in favor of beach destinations. Walking through ancient temples and navigating busy Tokyo streets alone, I felt a sense of peace I had not experienced in years. I was not just surviving without Laura, I was thriving. There were still difficult moments, of course. Certain songs or restaurants would trigger memories. Mutual friends would occasionally mention running into her. She had moved to a neighboring city, taken a job with a smaller company. The first holiday season alone was particularly challenging. But each emotional hurdle I cleared made the next one easier. The hardest lesson, and ultimately the most valuable, was learning to trust my own worth again. Laura's betrayal had cut to the core of my self-image, making me question whether I was enough. The real breakthrough came when I realized that someone else's inability to appreciate me did not diminish my value. I also learned the importance of boundaries and self-respect. Looking back, I had ignored red flags and accepted less than I deserved out of fear of losing Laura. Never again would I compromise my dignity to keep someone who did not truly value me. 1 year after Laura first confessed, I sat on my back deck watching the sunset, reflecting on the journey. The man I had become was stronger, more confident, and paradoxically more open to authentic connection than the person I had been in my marriage. The pain that had once felt unbearable had transformed into wisdom. I have come to believe that losing someone who does not respect you is not a loss at all. It is the universe creating space for something better. The betrayal that felt like an ending was actually a beginning. A door closing behind me forced me to look forward to discover paths I might never have explored otherwise. If you are going through something similar right now, know this: the pain does not last forever. The day will come when you think of that person and feel nothing but a distant acknowledgement of a chapter closed. Your worth is not determined by someone else's inability to see it. True healing comes not from forgetting what happened, but from using it to build something stronger within yourself. What was your biggest takeaway from this story? Have you ever had to rebuild your life after betrayal, or do you know someone who has? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories of resilience and growth. And if you know someone who might need to hear this message, share it with them. Sometimes the stories that hurt the most to hear are the ones we need the most. Thank you for listening. And remember, your worth is non-negotiable.